Imagine the awkwardness of discovering that your ex-girlfriend is now your stepsister. That's the situation facing Yumi and Mizuto. Yumi's mother, Yuni, ties the knot with Mizuto's father, Miniaki, merging their families and turning Yumi and Mizuto into unexpected step-siblings. Unfortunately, their parents are unaware of their previous relationship in middle school. To maintain their sibling relationship, they choose who will be the oldest sibling rather than calling each other by surname. So they play a game to see who has seniority, and whoever mentions the other's surname loses their claim to being the elder sibling. Yumi, enjoying her new role, begins to engage in typical sibling acts, such as playfully touching Mizuto's belongings. However, Mizuto recognizes her tactics and decides to take a more perfect approach. So he approaches her and gently apologizes if he has ever upset her. This reminds Yumi of her ex-boyfriend, and she accidentally calls him by his name. Yumi loses the game, and she is forced to address Mizuto as Big Brother or Oni-chan. An embarrassed Yumi gathers her courage to call him her big brother. This makes her feel embarrassed and causes her to run away from the room. On their first day of high school, Mizuto and Yumi face a new set of challenges when they realize they're not only in the same class but also share the same surname. During the school ceremony, Yumi's speech earns her popularity, drawing the attention of their classmates. After class, two boys approach Mizuto, wanting to become friends with him so that they can be closer to his stepsister. The next day, Mizuto meets the boys again, but Yumi intervenes by linking her arms and claiming she has a brother complex, so the boys back off. This move confuses Mizuto, especially when Yumi's mood suddenly changes, leaving him puzzled about her previous actions. Because their parents arrive home late, they decide to cook dinner. Yumi then looks at his arm, which brings back memories of the sensation on his arm. She then asks him to forget about the incident, which he did before she asked. Yumi feels disappointed to learn that she is forgettable to Mizuto. Determined to get back at him, Yumi pulls a prank on Mizuto by walking out with only a bath towel, which catches him off guard. However, Mizuto stands up and covers her with his jacket, scolding her for her reckless behavior. As she tries to leave, she trips and falls onto the couch with him. In this situation, they forget about the game and almost kiss each other. They are interrupted by the sound of footsteps, as their parents finally arrive home. Mizuto pretends to be alone in the living room, while Yumi hides under the couch. They both realize that situations like this are the reason they can't move on from the past. Today is a physical test and Mizuto is approached by Kogure Kawanami, who states he will be Mizuto's partner and has no intention of using him to get to Yumi. Meanwhile, in the medical room where the girls are being measured, Yumi's classmate, Akatsuki Minami, is envious of Yumi's physical growth. After taking their measurements, they head to the gym to prepare for the test. Yumi becomes nervous because she isn't good at sports. When she sees Minami taking the test, she is surprised to see how athletic she is. Yumi refuses to give up and pushes herself throughout the exam. As she finishes the sprint test, she suddenly faints and collapses, but Mizuto arrives and catches her before she falls. He then compliments her for working so hard. What a gentleman! As Minami takes her to the nurse's office, Yumi apologizes for pushing so hard. She tells Minami about her struggles with sports and asks her to keep it a secret. Surprisingly, they quickly become best friends. The day after that, Yumi can't make it to school because she catches a fever. Minami then tells Mizuto that she wants to visit Yumi after school. When they enter Yumi's room, she is still sleeping. As Yumi awakens, she is surprised to see her ex-boyfriend by her side and questions why he left her on the day of their breakup. Mizuto quickly changes the subject, telling her that Minami is visiting her, leaving Yumi both surprised and embarrassed. When they prepare porridge for Yumi, Minami notices Mizuto's cooking skills, speculating that he had an ex-girlfriend before. She wonders if living with his stepsister now makes him feel awkward. Curious about his feelings for Yumi, Minami directly asks Mizuto, who denies any romantic feelings. Minami takes care of Yumi, feeding her with her delicious cooking. As the sun sets, Minami goes back home. Mizuto informs Yumi that Minami has left and encourages her to get some rest. Yumi expresses her fear of being alone again and asks for Mizuto's hand to hold as she falls asleep. Mizuto reflects on their past relationship, recalling the simple joys they shared as a couple as well as the misunderstanding that caused their breakup. But 2 weeks later, they were reunited again as their parents remarried, which they were actually doomed. Back in the present, Mizuto stays with her and does everything she asks of him. Mizuto suspects Yumi of lying about her illness and insists she retakes her temperature, revealing she had recovered but pretended to be sick, so he would be nice to her. Mizuto forgives her after she has apologized. 6 months earlier, Yumi had obsessively cherished every gift from Mizuto, keeping them in her treasure chest like sacred objects. She even had a nightly ritual of worshipping the chest as a symbol of her love. However, today, Yumi finds herself holding Mizuto's underwear, inhaling his scent like an obsessed girlfriend. She then throws away his underwear and blames him for wearing them. She overthinks the situation and imagines the embarrassment of being caught by Mizuto, and punishes her for being a bad stepsister. So Yumi decides to wait for everyone to fall asleep. She tiptoes into Mizuto's room, only to find Mizuto doing the same thing with her bra. After their awkward moment, they decide to have a serious conversation about the situation. Yumi asks Mizuto why he has her bra, and he explains that he found it in the washing machine and quickly brought it to his room when his father unexpectedly walked by. Interestingly, Yumi shares a similar story about finding Mizuto's underwear, which leads to mutual suspicion. They both admit to breaking the rules and make a deal: if they break them again, they can freely demand one thing from each other. Later after school, Yumi becomes jealous as she finds Mizuto with a girl who looks like her from junior high and assumes they are dating. This jealousy drives her actions the next day when she discovers a pair of loafers in her home and believes Mizuto brought her to his room. So she takes a photo to gather some evidence and lies to Mizuto, asking him to buy groceries for her. Once she hears he has left the house, Yumi rushes to his room, only to be caught by Mizuto before she can enter. Yumi accuses him of bringing the girl home and uses her photo as evidence. Mizuto, on the other hand, denies her claim, stating that he is alone in the house. He asks Yumi to check her room, but she insists nothing has been moved or taken. Mizuto becomes concerned when he realizes the girl Yumi is talking about is Minami, who had disguised herself and proposed marriage to him due to her obsession with Yumi. Feeling unsure of how to handle the situation, Mizuto reaches out to Kawanami for advice. Kawanami suggests that Mizuto rejects Minami several times. However, if that strategy fails, Kawanami has a brilliant idea that surprises him. Later that night, Mizuto goes to Yumi's room and invites her out on a date, which surprises Yumi. The next day, Yumi is waiting for Mizuto's arrival. Mizuto then apologizes for being late, and he appears in a cool outfit, which Yumi can't help but fangirl over him. They enter the aquarium together and wait in a long ticket line. Yumi's mind races with the idea that aquariums are only visited by couples and families, so she assumes they're on a date. Mizuto then grabs Yumi's hand as they enter, dragging her inside. Meanwhile, Mizuto realizes that they are being stalked by Kawanami and Minami, who are pretending to be on a date together. Mizuto had previously met Kawanami, who had given him a makeover to impress Yumi. Their goal is to break Minami's heart and show her that Yumi's heart only belongs to Mizuto. As their first move, Mizuto tries to compliment Yumi's cute outfit. He's concerned that his efforts have failed, but Yumi blushes and thanks him. As the place is getting crowded, Mizuto pulls her shoulder closer to him, causing her heart to race as she finds herself unable to look away from him. During a visit to the restroom, Mizuto calls Kawanami for help, but Kawanami leaves everything to Mizuto's choice. Meanwhile, Yumi gets lost on her way back to the aquarium. Mizuto calls her and instructs her to remain where she is. She's disappointed that he's being kind instead of teasing her with his usual sarcasm. This reminds her of their first date, when she also got lost at a festival and Mizuto came to her rescue with her favorite drink. Later, Mizuto finally locates her, teasing her about her lack of direction. They then continue their date, debating everything about their favorite books and even sharks. Now they are starting to look like brother and sister. Mizuto is surprised that they get along better as step-siblings, rather than their toxic relationship. As their date comes to an end, they head home separately. Suddenly, Minami appears from behind Mizuto, claiming that their meeting was a coincidence. She then apologizes for breaking into their house and begs him not to tell Yumi about it. Mizuto decides to let her go this time because she is Yumi's best friend, but he warns her to behave. However, Minami doesn't give up on marrying him and lives together with Yumi. Meanwhile, Yumi is confused by Mizuto's unusual request for a date, but she doesn't want their date end that way. When Mizuto gets home, Yumi asks him to do a photo shoot. Unable to refuse, he poses as a model while a fangirling Yumi snaps hundreds of pictures. Mizuto grants her an extra wish, and she requests to be hugged from behind and whispered to. So she sits down on the couch and he hugs her from behind, whispering to her that he caught her. Back in middle school, during a night camp, Mizuto finds himself gazing at the moon outside. From another room, Yumi expresses her gratitude to him for sharing his curry ingredients earlier. They spend a quiet moment together, gazing at the moon and cherishing their relationship. Yumi asks Mizuto for advice on choosing a Mother's Day gift, but he denies it because he is uncomfortable going shopping together. Yumi suddenly leaves him, but returns shortly after, dressed in a beautiful dress and ready to go out. Mizuto is captivated by her beauty and forgets about their sibling relationship boundaries. So, Yumi reminds him of their sibling relationship, explaining that siblings are not supposed to look at each other like this. As a result, he agrees to accompany her on the shopping trip. Yumi and Mizuto are riding a crowded train to the mall. When the train unexpectedly shakes, Mizuto loses his balance and almost falls into Yumi. He then tries to distance himself from her, but Yumi tells him that it's pointless as the train shakes again. It seems that they are enjoying it. When they arrive at the mall, they set out to find the perfect gift for their mother. After much thought, they decide on a bouquet of roses to represent their gratitude and love. She then cries joyfully and runs to hide in the kitchen. Mizuto later pays a visit to his mother's shrine and prays there. Yumi joins him, offering him comfort and support as his older sister. Because their parents are still considered newlyweds, Mizuto suggests that they give them some alone time. Yumi considers giving dinner or travel vouchers as gifts, but they're out of their budget. Mizuto jokingly suggests spending the night at a love hotel, causing Yumi to panic at the thought of them sharing a room. So, the next day, Mizuto comes up with another idea and decides to spend the night at Kawanami's, while Yumi stays next door at Minami's. As they enter the apartment, Yumi asks about Minami's relationship with Kawanami. Minami admits that they were close since elementary school, but their worlds separated over time, even though they still live next door to each other physically. Kawanami then teases Mizuto about his relationship with Yumi, but Mizuto avoids and promises not to reveal any information to him. However, Kawanami playfully raises his voice by loudly suggesting Mizuto has eyes for Yumi's melons, causing an embarrassed Yumi to bang on the wall in response. Seeking revenge, Mizuto playfully ties up Kawanami in his bed while reading parts from his diary, revealing Kawanami's dreams to become a policeman and marry Minami. An embarrassed Minami joins in by also banging on the wall. They then meet at a nearby restaurant for dinner. At first, Kawanami and Minami argue over food choices, but soon Yumi and Mizuto find themselves fighting over their drink choices. As they finish their dinner, Minami cuddles up to Mizuto and asks him to tutor her, but he declines, claiming that Yumi would be a better teacher. Although Yumi takes this as a compliment, Mizuto claims that his grades are higher than hers, which frustrates her. Later that night, Mizuto and Yumi find themselves on separate balconies. Mizuto admires Yumi's cute pajamas, which Minami convinced her to wear. As they reminisce about their middle school memories, Yumi secretly admits to still having feelings for him. Yumi wonders if their parents will divorce, but Mizuto assures her that this will only happen if their parents divorce unexpectedly, leaving them stuck as step-siblings for the rest of their lives, which makes both of them sad. As the midterms approach, Yumi is determined to keep her top spot in the class rankings. She recalls a time when Mizuto surpassed her on a math test, breaking her streak as the top student. She refused to accept defeat and worked hard to reclaim back her position. However, she noticed that Mizuto did not appear to be interested in her top position. During their first meeting at the library, Yumi was surprised when he secretly acknowledged her math test success over mystery novels. She realized he was secretly paying attention to her, and it was the first time she fell in love. Back in the present, Yumi reminds him that he hasn't been studied much, but Mizuto confidently declares that he will steal the top position from her in the upcoming midterms. Yumi accepts the challenge, and the academic battle begins. On the first day of exams, Yumi answers all of the questions easily, scoring an excellent 94. However, she is concerned that Mizuto's fluency in Japanese may have helped him score higher. Yumi sneaks into his room to find his test, only to discover that he purposefully left the last answer blank. She immediately confronts him, blaming him for holding back for her, but Mizuto states his disinterest in being first. He challenges her to think of him however she wants, leaving Yumi in tears. After the mid-test exams are over, Yumi learns that Mizuto has replaced her as the top-ranked student, challenging her to beat him in the final test. Worried that her second rank might affect her popularity and friendships, Yumi receives unexpected support from her friends, who encourage her to keep fighting for the final. She doesn't expect their response, which causes her to burst into happy tears. Later, Yumi rushes to the library to thank Mizuto. She finds him talking novel with a cute girl named Isana Higashira. Since they both share the same interests, Mizuto considers Higashira as his closest friend. Yumi struggles to keep her jealousy under control and decides to move on from her past. The next day, during breakfast, Yumi gently offers soy sauce to Mizuto, which is unusually thoughtful. When Mizuto accidentally steps on her eraser, she forgives him instead of scolding him. Even when Mizuto forgets his lunch, Yumi brings it to him, an act that feels odd to him. Her sudden change disturbs Mizuto, but Higashira advises him to confront Yumi directly. Meanwhile, Yumi realizes how good she feels now that she's moving on from Mizuto. Not long after, Mizuto approaches her with her favorite outfit, corners her, and caresses her, which she can't help but enjoy. He then reminds her that step-siblings shouldn't feel that way. After losing the game, he confronts her about the change and demands an explanation for it. Yumi admits that she's jealous of Higashira and wonders if it is okay to be jealous over a sibling. Mizuto finds her jealousy creepy, but he teases her back, saying that since he's known her for 2 years, he's used to her creepiness. The next day, Yumi and Minami meet Higashira and formally introduce themselves to her. Higashira suddenly shakes her hand to start their friendship. She also confesses her disinterest in Mizuto, while also clearing up Yumi's misconceptions about their relationship. In a flashback, Yumi recalls her attempt to confess her feelings to Mizuto by leaving a love letter in his shoebox, but she failed. She thinks of another way to give the letter to him. After school, she hands him her letter, which he immediately reads. To her surprise, Mizuto accepts her love to be her boyfriend. Meanwhile, Higashira receives a threatening letter, claiming that someone knows her secret and will reveal it unless she meets with them at a specific location. She reluctantly arrives at the restaurant, where Yumi and Minami are awaiting her. Yumi apologizes for Minami's prank, but Minami insists on learning Higashira's secret, her romantic feelings for Mizuto. Higashira denies it and says they are just friends. To prove their point, they show her a video of Mizuto sleeping, and Minami whispers something in her ear, making her blush. Then Minami shows a photo of her looking at Mizuto with love. Higashira admits that she has zero experience with love. But if what she feels is love, then Mizuto is her first crush. Minami offers to help her become Mizuto's girlfriend, but Higashira prefers to remain friends rather than risk their current friendship. Yumi recognizes Higashira's uncertainty as a reflection of her past self, who also lacked confidence in love. She encourages Higashira not to give up on her first crush. The next day, Higashira tries to get closer to Mizuto while Yumi and Minami quietly observe from the bookshelf, zooming in with their cameras. When Mizuto steps away for a moment, Minami notices that Higashira's underwear is exposed. When Mizuto returns, he calmly informs Higashira about it, causing her embarrassment. Observing this interaction, they conclude that Mizuto is unlikely to see Higashira as girlfriend material. Minami suggests that Higashira should use physical touch to remind Mizuto that she's a girl. So Higashira eventually follows her advice, but she fails miserably. It appears that she hasn't given up on seducing him. Back in the restroom, Yumi advises Higashira to just be herself. Minami agrees but also points out that Higashira lacks confidence as a girl. They suggest that Higashira get a little makeover to boost her confidence. After the makeover, Higashira returns to Mizuto, hoping for a different outcome. Despite her efforts, Mizuto still considers her as nothing more than a friend. As their last resort, Minami encourages her to confess her feelings to Mizuto. Higashira feels unprepared and believes she has nothing special to offer, other than her large chest. Yumi reassures her that Mizuto enjoys spending time with her and will never refuse her love. So the next evening, Minami and Yumi encourage Higashira and give her a tube of lip gloss before her confession. When Mizuto arrives, Higashira expresses her gratitude for having someone like him in her life and asks to be her girlfriend. Unfortunately, Mizuto rejects her, claiming that his heart belongs to someone else, even though she doesn't deserve it. Yumi is quietly upset by Mizuto's continued feelings for her, despite their stepsister relationship. The day after, Minami and Yumi confront Higashira about why she's hanging out with Mizuto after he rejects her. Higashira claims although he broke her heart, it doesn't mean they can't continue being friends. Back at the library, Higashira expresses her interest in seeing Mizuto's book collection. Mizuto questions her comfort with visiting a guy's house alone, but she tells him that he has already turned her down. The day before her visit, she meets with Yumi and Minami. They both plan to take her shopping for new clothes, believing that her outfit is unfashionable. During the shopping trip, Higashira feels uncomfortable in revealing clothes. They realize her large chest makes most outfits look lewd. To solve this, Minami suggests Higashira switch styles with Yumi's outfit. As they switch, Yumi looks good in tight clothes, which she hasn't worn in a long time. This brings back memories of her first date with Mizuto. She recalls spending a lot of time finding the perfect outfit. As their date finally arrived, Yumi wore something cute but felt disappointed when Mizuto didn't comment on her appearance. She felt unattractive because he didn't pay attention to her. However, as they went their separate ways, he suddenly complimented her cute outfit and advised her not to wear a miniskirt outside. This made her happy, and from that day forward, she always dressed up to his liking. When Higashira arrives, she walks into his room and is surprised by his book collection. Yumi also joins them, acting as a supervisor and feeling uneasy about their closeness. As they spend time reading, Higashira requests a shoulder massage from Mizuto, which he gives her, making her feel relieved. She then requests his help in putting on socks, which he gladly gives her. While this appears to be normal in their friendship, Yumi finds it uncomfortable. In a private conversation, Higashira tells Yumi that she will always have feelings for Mizuto, but she wants to remain friends with him to keep him in her life. Later, when Yumi is alone with Mizuto, she requests his help in putting on socks, only to be embarrassed by the sensual sensation of his touch on her legs. This situation reminds Yumi of when Mizuto invited her to his house, where they planned to spend time together in his room. As they sat on the bed, they couldn't help but feel nervous. Yumi expected him to kiss her, but Mizuto switched her attention by recommending a novel she liked. After they finished reading, Mizuto walked her home, leaving Yumi disappointed that their relationship hadn't progressed further. As Yumi went inside her house, Mizuto was feeling upset because he had accidentally disrupted his plans for her. On their first day of school as third-year students, they hoped to be in the same class but ended up in different ones. Yumi, who was introverted without Mizuto in her class, expressed her disappointment, but Mizuto promised to spend time with her after school and during the holidays. However, everything changed when Yumi told him that she had made a new friend. Day by day, she kept talking about how special her friend was until she forgot about their relationship. Even when Mizuto asked her on a date, she rejected him and planned to go out with her friends, which upset him. One day, Mizuto became annoyed and told her that he had no interest in her friends. He soon regretted his harsh words and promised to apologize the next day. When Yumi cancelled her plans with her friends to spend time with Mizuto, she was surprised to see him talking to another girl at the library, which she felt was a betrayal. As the girl left the library, Yumi confronted Mizuto, accusing him for hypocrisy for wanting to keep her to himself while talking to another girl. Mizuto tried to explain that the girl was merely seeking a book recommendation, but Yumi took it personally, feeling that he was cheating, which led to an argument. They met again in a bookstore, where they were both looking for the same book. Mizuto made a kind gesture by offering Yumi the last copy. They later ate at a restaurant, where Mizuto made a formal apology to Yumi, which she accepted. As August approached, Yumi planned to invite Mizuto to a festival but had to withdraw at the last minute. She went to the festival alone, hoping that he would approach her like on their previous date. On their first anniversary, Mizuto remained silent and did not contact her. Christmas and Valentine's Day passed with no contact between them, which led to their fragile relationship. Ultimately, they decided to end their relationship on the day of their middle school graduation, which was a bittersweet end to their time together. However, fate had different plans. Shortly after their breakup, they discovered their parents were getting married, transforming them from ex-lovers to step-siblings, a surprising twist that would forever change their romantic story. Back in the present, as a powerful typhoon rages outside, Yumi's phone rings with a message from her parents, informing her that they are unable to return home due to the storm. Yumi's peace is short-lived when a small cockroach enters her room. So she quickly runs and looks for safety in Mizuto's room. With the power out and the house dark, Mizuto and Yumi find themselves unexpectedly sharing a bed. She doesn't mind sleeping in the same bed with him because he hasn't made any move to her since middle school. As they fall asleep, Mizuto suddenly awakens from his sleep. He realizes how close Yumi was to him and struggles with his feelings about their previous relationship, but he tries to forget them. The next day, Yumi playfully teases Mizuto for being afraid of cockroaches, but he decides to let it slide, choosing not to argue with her. Their parents jokingly tease them about acting like a married couple. Mizuto's father announces a family trip to his hometown and reminds them to pack their swimsuits. Since Yumi only has a school swimsuit, her mother asks her to buy a new one and insists that Mizuto accompany her. As Yumi tries on the swimsuit, she asks Mizuto for his opinion. Feeling awkward, he tells her she looks too seductive. Yumi feels embarrassed, as she was seeking feedback on the swimsuit, not her appearance. So, she finally makes her own decision and buys the swimsuit. As Mizuto and Yumi walk back home, they pass by the wall where they shared their first kiss. While they are reminiscing, a gust of wind blows Yumi's hat off. Mizuto moves quickly to catch it, accidentally bringing his face close to Yumi's. Yumi expects herself for another kiss, but Mizuto abruptly flicks her on the head. Back at home, Yumi returns the book Mizuto lent her, and their interaction suddenly becomes awkward. Their parents tease them again, saying they're acting like a cute couple. Yumi reacts defensively, denying any romantic relationship between them. Despite his internal conflict over their complicated relationship, Mizuto begins to realize that their parents see them as more than just step-siblings. The following day, Higashira visits Mizuto and Yumi to watch a movie together. Yumi gets jealous when she sees Higashira sitting on Mizuto's lap during the movie. In her mind, she imagines Higashira trying to win Mizuto's heart, and he agrees to marry her. After the movie, Mizuto asks Yumi to pass her drink, which she does, and he casually drinks from it. Higashira teases them about the idea of an indirect kiss, which is common between them. Mizuto then feels tired, and Higashira offers her lap for him to rest on, but Yumi doesn't let him. She also offers to clean his ears, which he finds disturbing. In the end, Mizuto chooses to fall asleep in Yumi's lap. Higashira considers kissing him, but Yumi warns her not to. Later, Yumi's mother asks about Higashira and Mizuto's relationship, commenting that they look perfect together. She then teases Yumi that she should soon find a boyfriend, or otherwise, she will lose to Mizuto. Yumi responds that she doesn't see it as a competition and asks her mother to wait. In her room, she secretly admits to herself that she cannot imagine dating anyone other than Mizuto. When they arrive in their hometown, they are warmly welcomed by their grandmother, who is delighted to meet the new members of the family. Mizuto and Yumi also meet Mizuto's cousins, Madoka and Chikuma, who warmly welcome Yumi. Madoka invites them to a barbecue by the river. As they arrive at the riverside, Madoka admires Yumi's slim body and playfully teases her, suggesting that her boyfriend must have chosen her swimsuit. Yumi then looks at Mizuto, which leads Madoka to believe Mizuto is her boyfriend. Madoka then tells stories about Mizuto's childhood, revealing that he always refused to get close to people, much to Yumi's surprise. In a room filled with books, Yumi finds Mizuto engaged in his great-grandfather's autobiography, The Siberian Dancing Girl. She wonders why he doesn't use a bookmark and casually closes the book. Mizuto explains that this is the only book he reads every year in his great-grandfather's library. He then recommends that she read it while he takes a bath. As Yumi reads the book, she is deeply moved by the story, and her tears fall onto the pages. When she goes to wipe them away, she notices another tear mark on the same page, Mizuto's, showing that he was equally moved. When he returns, Yumi asks him about his first love. He hints that his first love is someone who loves to laugh. Hearing this, Yumi concludes that Mizuto's first love was Madoka. If it's not her, then who could it be? While Yumi and Madoka are choosing their kimonos for the upcoming summer festival, Madoka notices Yumi seems distracted. She asks Yumi if she is in love with Mizuto, but Yumi is unsure. Sensing Yumi's inner conflict, Madoka realizes that Yumi is looking for an excuse not to fall in love with him. Madoka advises her to take advantage of the opportunity to sort out her feelings. She then arranges for Yumi and Mizuto to spend time together in a locked room, ensuring that no one will interrupt them. The atmosphere in the room is awkward, but Yumi wishes to confess her burden. She realizes she was selfish in the past and regrets breaking up with Mizuto, wishing she had called him on their first anniversary, given him a present on Christmas, and shared chocolates with him on Valentine's Day. As she starts to cry, Mizuto comforts her with a hug. Once she calms down, Yumi asks if Mizuto's first love was Madoka. He denies ever loving Madoka and teases her for the mistake, making her laugh. Before he leaves, Mizuto tells her that his first love is someone who loves to laugh. Yumi blushes as she realizes she was Mizuto's first love. The next day, Madoka is stunned by Yumi's look in her pink kimono. Mizuto also wears a kimono, and Yumi finds him incredibly handsome. She wants to take a photo of him, but ends up taking a photo with Madoka instead. Mizuto then takes her phone and unexpectedly unlocks it, revealing that he knows her password. Before they enter the festival, Madoka suggests they hold hands to avoid getting lost. Mizuto denies it, saying they aren't children anymore, but Yumi insists, linking her hand with his and saying it's normal for siblings. At the shooting game, Chikuma tries to win a doll with Madoka assisting him, but they miss their shots. When Mizuto takes his turn, Madoka asks Yumi to help him like she did with Chikuma. Yumi assists him by directing his focus from behind, pointing out the prize. She loses her balance and falls into Mizuto's back, causing him to shoot and win the prize. Before the fireworks begin, Mizuto goes missing. Madoka explains that every year, he watches the fireworks alone. Determined to find him, Yumi sets off on her own. Meanwhile, Mizuto is sitting in a shrine, reflecting on his past where he grew up without much affection. This began to change when he discovered a book that impacted him, The Siberian Dancing Girl. From that day on, Mizuto constantly read the book and learned about human selfishness, fragility, and authority. Everything changed when he met Yumi. On their first date at the summer festival, Mizuto realized the truth he had discovered in the book, how weak humans are when alone. Mizuto felt pity for Yumi and wanted to care for her for the rest of his life. From that day on, Yumi was one of the few people who made him feel something deep, which is called love. Not long after, Yumi finally discovers him at the shrine. She then reveals that her phone passcode is the date of their first kiss. When she asks why he chose to date her, Mizuto admits that she is the only girl who has ever won his heart. As the fireworks light up the sky, Yumi boldly seals their connection with a kiss, not as Ai Yumi, but as Irito Yumi. She swears that she will make him her boyfriend again, somehow. So the question is, will Yumi and Mizuto be able to move on from their previous relationship and accept their new relationship as step-siblings? Or will they be stuck as two lovers, unable to deny their feelings? That's a wrap. Thank you for watching.